Hello everybody, we're going to be doing something a little different this week. So, we have reached the end of the season for the Prismatic Draft League. We are going to be going into bracket next week, so that's exciting. I did make bracket. I landed 7th with a win percentage of 63%. So we are going to be playing in playoffs next week, but I just wanted to do a look back on the season, and as you can see at the top, we actually have a lot of games open. I just want to go back through the games a bit, skip around, see what I did right, what I did wrong, and I also want to just go over the Pokemon that we drafted this season, and just kind of like go in retrospect on if they were good or not. So if we go over to this box has all the Pokemon I drafted this season, including Chansey and Pincurchin, who I did trade away. Now, let's start off with probably my most well-performing Pokemon. Not well-performing, but most obvious Pokemon. Iron Bundle has been an amazing Pokemon for us. Got insane special attack, great for opening picks. He's just been doing very well for me this season. I am glad I drafted him. Raichu, a little mixed on Raichu. In those moments where I did have access to Fake Out, it was great. However, for the most part, Raichu just did not do what I needed it to do a lot. Very frail, not very frail, but it most of the time didn't survive on the field long enough to make a difference. Now, in that game where I did have Lightning Rod activate, that was really hype. However, on a whole, Raichu itself did not do much for me. However, I picked it. Having Fake Out is an incredible option. Access to Electric Type moves, paralyzing with Nuzzle. Great pick. I don't regret picking him, though I do wish I could have done more with it. Now, Espafra is one of the Pokemon I traded away Pincurchin for. If you remember, at the start of the season, I had Pincurchin for the first 3 weeks. However, it just wasn't doing much for me. Pincurchin, yes, it sets up electric terrain. However, that's really all it did. It would set up electric terrain and then die. It just didn't have the offensive pressure I needed from an A-tier pick, so I switched to Espafra, who, might I say, did incredible for me. I had several games in a row where Espafra straight up was the reason I won. I needed that offensive pressure that Espafra provided, and I am glad I traded away Pincurchin for it. Next we have Primeape. Now Primeape I haven't used a lot this season. In fact, I think I only brought it to 1 game, unfortunately. And in that 1 game, I wouldn't say it was the wrong play. It was against, I think it was against 9, I believe. Who had the King Gambit? Oh no, it was against Robbie. I brought, words are hard. I brought Prime up against Robbie, and I guess I could say I'm a little disappointed in Primeape. It isn't as good as I was hoping it to be. I mean, Primeape itself isn't a good Pokemon. Annihilate is what makes the line. However, I thought Eviolite Primeape would be decent. I haven't used it really throughout this season. Would I have liked to use it more? Yeah, but for the most part, in most of my matches, I'd find that Primeape just isn't that good of an option into the opponent. Which leads into Oricorio. Oricorio, I straight up regret picking. If I look back at the rosters, I believe it was my C tier pick. We scroll all the way down. Yeah, Oricorio was one of my C tier picks. Same thing with Primeape. If I used one of my agent picks, free agent picks, I probably wouldn't be as disappointed with Oricorio, but I just have not had a use for it at all. Revelation Dance is an incredibly powerful move under terrestrialization. However, I'm finding most situations where I just want to use something else for terrestrialization, right? Because Oricorio, it's not a very strong Pokemon, and I'd rather have terrestrialization on something like a Spafra or Iron Bundle or Garganacl, Pokemon that can make very good use of terrestrialization. Whereas Oricorio just felt like a gimmick, and I don't know. I kind of wish I grabbed a better Fire-type Pokemon from C tier, but I think at the time when I drafted it, there weren't any left remaining. Because if we go to C, real quick, we'll see like what Fire-type is left. I don't think we even have any Fire-types left. Yeah, no, there's no Fire-types left at this point in C tier. So when I grabbed it, it was my only Fire-type option. Cause I wanted a Fire-type. But if I'm honest, I hate this mouse, by the way. It's constantly flicking back and forth. I feel like I should have gotten something like Colossal before it was picked. Because Oricorio Fire was not doing anything for me. Now, Bayonet was a Pokemon I swapped Chansey out for. And I haven't really used it. I brought it to one game, I believe. But it's a better option than Chansey, I gotta say that. Because at least with Bayonet, I have options. With Chansey, it was more so, wouldn't it be funny if I drafted the Pokemon that could use hacks? But it just never did anything for me. In fact, in the one game where I brought it, it just didn't even get the hacks that I needed it to get off, and I just, in that moment, I realized that trying to rely on such a gimmicky gimmick would not be healthy for my team. Then we have Snorunt, which is our mascot. Nothing really to say here. I've never brought him to a game this season, but I didn't really have anything in untiered that I wanted, so I grabbed Snorunt because mascot. Next up, Dragalge. Another Pokemon I'm kind of disappointed in. Wait. My team has mainly been carried by Iron Bundle, Raichu, Garganacl. Dragalge is kind of just in the middle. It either gets off a hit that does decently well, or it gets one shot. Dragalge is just too slow. Sorry. Joe's just too slow to have any sort of offensive pressure. Adaptability is nice, but the problem is it just never stayed on the field long enough to do anything with that. Now, for a... Let's see. Dragalge was B tier, right? Yeah, Dragalge was B tier. I don't necessarily regret picking up Dragalge, though I would have wanted something more like Muck or even Tauros Water or Fire. I hate this mouse. Oh my god. Can you scroll properly? Just Dragalge, it never did what I needed it to do. It was just too slow. It kept dying really quickly. Like, I'm sure if you look back on my games from week to week, I started being more consistent when I stopped bringing some of the Pokemon that were dragging me down. Like, I stopped bringing Dragalge as often. I stopped bringing Pincurchin. I dropped altogether. I haven't brought Oricorio really because it just wasn't doing it's not doing anything for me. So I think that's something that's really important for being in a draft league, recognizing when a Pokemon isn't able to do anything for you. Now, in my case, there are Pokemon that I can't trade away. Like, I could ask someone if they want it, but I don't think anyone would want Oricorio Fire from me. And I don't really see anything in B tier that I would have traded for Dragalge. Glimmora is an insane pick, by the way, for B tier. Like, oof. Maybe I would have asked for a Glimmora, but I don't think they would have traded it to me. But yeah, going back to Dragalge, It's a Pokemon I don't mind that I drafted. I just wish it did more. Because one of the things I had in my head when I drafted it is, I could go Terra Water, do Storm Drain with Gastrodon, and have adaptability boost up the Surf. It's a very gimmicky idea. And because both of them are very slow, it just doesn't work. So after that one time where I tried it and it did not pan out, I just dropped the strategy. Which segues us into Gastrodon. Another mixed bag for me. Gastrodon itself never really did anything amazing. Because the problem with Gastrodon is it's 4 times weak to grass, right? And I don't want to waste my Terra on it. However, getting it on the field is incredibly hard. It's insanely slow. It dies to a single grass type attack almost always. And maybe if in some sets I gave it a resist berry. Hold on, what berry makes you take less damage from grass type attacks? Maybe if I gave it a Rindo berry, it'd be more useful. However, Gastrodon, it kind of just sat there, it would take hits, which is kind of what I wanted it to do. However, Garganacl just does that better. So if I had a choice, I probably would have swapped Gastrodon out for a more offensive B tier. Because it was B tier as well. So yeah, not entirely happy with Gastrodon. Garganacl, however, has been the king of my games this league. It's an incredibly hard Pokemon to take out. Even when you know it's coming, you have to dedicate a whole lot of resources to be able to get rid of it. And then that becomes the mind game, right? So they know I can bring Garganacl, but do I bring Garganacl? I mean, I brought Garganacl to every game, but I didn't bring it out every game, if that makes sense. Like, I bring it to every match, but there were a few times where I didn't use Garganacl in the match. That's just something to always be wary of. Its ability means that I could tear it into Ghost, and it has no weakness and 1 immunity, which is completely awesome. Because having a very bulky Pokemon like this have no weaknesses is insane if using Terra type. Now, I feel Garganacl itself, though, is brought up because of Terra types, right? So, the thing that makes Garganacl such a threat is you have no idea what it's going to Terra into. Terra Ghost is the obvious play, however, you don't win by being obvious. You could go something like Terra Normal, Grass, Water, whatever the situation calls for, really. Now, that's what makes Garganacl so annoying to deal with. Like, yes, it doesn't exactly have the best move pool for doubles. Because you could use Earthquake, however, unless you have a Pokemon with immunity right beside it, you're going to be dealing damage to them as well. But Salt Cure is just an incredibly strong move for momentum. You're forcing your opponent to either take that chip or switch out. Especially if they're using a Water or Steel type Pokemon, which take 25% from that Salt Cure chip. It's also got Body Press for an insane offensive ability with its massive defense stat, allowing you to also just put that your EVs into even more defense and HP. Garganacl is the foundation of this team, and it's been very, very strong for me. And the last Pokemon that's still on the team is Fungus. Now, I'm sure some of you have noticed that, save for the first few weeks, I really haven't used Fungus. And to me, it's because I don't need it. Whatever Fungus does, with redirection and maybe putting stuff to sleep, I don't really need it for this team, right? Because, yes, Fungus might be able to survive 1 hit or 2. Really only 1 hit because it's still a first form Pokemon. And yes, Eviolite bumps its defenses up a lot. However, sorry. If it gets doubled, it's dead. And while that might be useful if I want to redirect with Rage Powder, it doesn't allow me to get the Spore off, which is what Fungus' main utility is. Redirection and Spore. And with Garganackle on the field, I don't necessarily need the redirection, because I can have Garganackle out with an offensive Pokemon, right? And I can do a Defense Terra on the offensive Mon, and have Garganackle just be a massive threat with Body Pressure Salt Cure. Like, Garganackle already does a decently good enough job of causing redirection for my enemy than Fungus. So after the first few weeks, despite not wanting to, because Fungus was my D tier pick, which I'm shocked it was in D tier. Where is it? Yeah. So there's nothing else I would have traded for in D tier. Like, maybe I could have hit up the person who took Flareon and traded for Flareon. Should have done that, actually. Or Magneton. Because Fungus just doesn't do much for my team, so I kind of needed to trade it away, but I held on to it just in case. And I never really needed it. And now for the black sheep of the team, Chansey and Pincursion. In case you haven't noticed by now, this is just all off the top of my head, so this is going to be a little longer of a video. Chansey, I took on a whim, and I absolutely hate that I grabbed it, because for those few weeks that I had Chansey, in my head, I was always like, how can I do something funny with Chansey? And it just wasn't great. Like, if I did get the perma-freeze with Chansey, would that have been funny? Yes. However, Chansey itself is not a great Pokemon. At least in double battles. In singles, it's alright. But Chansey just never did anything for me. It's one of my only 4 Pokemon to bring out on the field, and most of the time it was just a dead slot. And by most of the time, I mean the one time I brought it. However, if we want to talk about real dead slot, Pincursion was 100% a bad pick. Like, yes, it gave me the option of not running Booster Energy on Iron Bundle, but I eventually learned that I probably just want to run Sash on Bundle instead. So, yes, Pincursion would have allowed me to still get the stat buff, but that means I have to use Pincursion. And Pincursion, its stats are alright. 101 attack, 85 special defense, 95 defense. But its HP and speed are god-awful. Like, it just doesn't do anything on the field before it dies. Like, the best move it has access to for its Zing Zap. You could use Giga Impact, but that's its best physical move it gets, Giga Impact. Or you could use Wild Charge for 10 more power points over Zing Zap, but then you're also getting 25% of that damage in recoil over 30% chance to flinch, which just isn't worth it. Like, yes, it gets boosted up by Electric Terrain, but part of the thing that makes Pincursion's defenses enticing is the fact that you could theoretically have it out on the field as a bit of a wall. But it just wasn't bulky enough, wasn't fast enough to do any momentum. Since I had no Trick Room option at this point, Pincursion was dead in the water. Now, at the time when I made the trades, there was a thought in my head that maybe if I brought... maybe keeping Pincursion, right? And just bringing on Bayonet and using Bayonet as a Trick Room setter for my Pokemon like Fungus, Garganackle, and Pincursion. But I figured I needed a better offense option than setting up Trick Room to enable half the team. Because I could still bring the Trick Room, right? But not have to worry about my offensive threats being very non-existent if I don't bring Trick Room. So that was on this whole the team. I liked Iron Bundle, Raichu, Espathra, and Garganackle. Wish I got a little more out of Gastrodon, Jigalgi, and Bayonet. And Regret or Choreo. Premic was alright. Now, for the last parts of this video, I want to look back at some of the replays. Because we had some very close games here. At some times. But it's also some very bad games. Now, this, when it happened, I completely glanced over the whole weak armor part. And then, like, it was bad. This surprised me, though. I'm surprised, but after two... What speed was my gas? I guess I didn't have any Gastrodon speed. So I think in this moment, when I did this game, I was expecting Trick Room, obviously. So I don't think I had any speed I had absolutely no speed investment on my Gastrodon. So I think I hovered somewhere around like 50 speed, because I didn't have 0 IVs in negative nature. So they must have been close to... I kind of want to ask them what their set for Indeedee was that game. I don't think they still even have it, because I feel like they had some speed IVs and EVs into the Indeedee, because I am shocked that at half speed, Gastrodon was slower. And of course, my rather unfortunate mistake on forgetting how Psychic Terrain works. I am constantly forgetting how terrains work. It is something I still need to work on. Then in game 2, we kind of just won by the skin of our teeth, but this is still probably one of the most tense games I've ever had. Because this is the game where Garganacl 1v freed. I forgot how Sucker Punch works again. So that was the second time in the game, but I forgot how terrains worked. And if I fought... Now, in retrospect, it should have been fairly obvious that he'd probably bring some way of setting terrain back up. But in the moment, I'm like, oh, he has a way of setting terrain. He probably's not gonna bring any terrain setting moves just in case. But I really should have thought about that. Like, he knows I have Pincursion, right? He knows I have a way of countering his terrain. And since I am slower, I will always set mine up last. So it makes sense why they bring a way to stop terrain, to change the terrain back to an effective thing. Now, landing that Hydro Pump was huge, of course, because I needed a way to prevent it. Now, this Jump Pluff was, I believe, Max Special Attack, or something close. Like, it was offensive Jump Pluff. And once again, I just did something because I, in the moment, thought it'd be okay. Looking back on it, I shouldn't have Terra'd Iron Bundle, and instead Terra'd Garganacl. Because I believe Garganacl was Terra... Hold on, if we go to... Yeah, it was Terra Ghost. So I was in less of a danger of you know, because Giga Drain became a big problem for me because it just did so much damage to Garganacl. And well, thinking about it a little more, I guess if I did go Terra Ghost, Honchkrow would have been a really big problem because I'd be weak to Night Slash. So I don't know, I guess it's a toss-up. Now, that turn, it could have gone better. So, if we look back, I did over half, nearly half, to Honchkrow with Salt Cure, right? And then the next turn, Indeedee wouldn't have died to Salt Cure, and neither would Honchkrow because they were still healthy. By going for the Protect there, I gave them a little more momentum, right? Because that allowed them to sack Indeedee to get a little more damage, and then Protect on Honchkrow, knowing that I'd attack him, since Indeedee would die that turn. I wouldn't need to attack him. Instead, what I would do now, knowing better, if I still intended not to attack Honchkrow, I would have recovered instead to get health back. And because of their misplay, we actually win on a sliver. Which is probably the not the scariest match in the entire series, because I've had scarier matches. But it was the most tense for me, because at this time I was still pretty inexperienced in Draft League. I'd only done, I think, 4 weeks of the other draft at this point. Actually, no. No, I'm wrong here. The other Draft League had just finished up. So, I was still very inexperienced at the time. But knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have made a play like this and had it risk up to my opponent misplaying. Let's see. Then we had our match against Ava. I'm going to start skimming through these because we were approaching 30 minutes. I was not expecting the Terra Fire. We got the Nuzzle off, which is fine, but they had the Covert Cloak on the Klefki. Do I recover here? I think, yeah, I did recover. Okay. Okay, good. It's been a while since I watched these matches. Now, bringing Dragalge over Iron Bundle was a bit of a throw. Like, he has Leaf Blade, but the thing is that Dragalge is just not fast at all. I think I brought Dragalge in yeah, no, I remember now. It's all coming back to me. I brought Dragalge because I thought maybe they'd Trick Room with Klefki. And with Dragalge being you know, very slow, give me a way into the fight. I lose this set. Now, however, Game 2 has my favorite prediction of all time. I believe it was Game 2. Okay, yep, and here it is. My favorite prediction of all time. Predicting the Terra Steel on Salamence. Now, this right here should have contributed to what I did Game 3. Like, I know they have Leaf Blade on the Gallade, and that is an insane problem to my team because half my team is weak to Leaf Blade. But then, Gallade itself was just a giant issue for the team I brought. 3 Pokemon weak to Leaf Blade, which is an option that it can bring. And then 2 Pokemon weak to its Stab and Psycho Cut. And then my last Pokemon, Raichu, just wasn't that great. This is one of those games where, looking back on, it was definitely winnable. And I just threw because I got tunnel vision on the problem of Salamence and Klefki. I forgot about Gallade. That's another thing that you have to really be careful about with draft leagues, forgetting about a Pokemon. Now let's skip around here because we are now at actually half an hour, so I want to kind of wrap this up. Let's go to this game. Oh, okay, so this was against 9, who was playing for Shadow. Okay, let's go. I got the prediction on Hypno being who they don't. What's it called? Not don't, but I had the prediction that Wo-Chen would protect. So I'm actually really proud of how Primeape did this game because it just did really well into Shadow's team in general. I don't know why I Stomping Tantrum there. I think. Okay, I remember now. So I was so hesitant to use Drain Punch into Wo-Chen because I kept thinking it would Terra. Like that, I got into my own head about Terras, which was a problem. Because now I can't kill it with a Drain Punch from here. Got a little more damage into Hypno because I figured Wo-Chen would protect. So, this is just a random topic, but I know there are people who believe that Wo-Chen could be really good. I'm not one of them. I know there was a bunch of Wo-Chen in the most recent regional, but I think only 2 made it to top cut, or 8. It was like, I think it was 2 or 8, hold on. Random off topic here. I want to see. Was it the Charlotte Regional? Or Fort Wayne, okay. I think it was only 2 top cut, quick to see spoiler. Yeah, well, only 3 made it to, day 2. And my belief on that is that it's because they're just better stall options for VGC at the moment. Well, not stall options, but because Wo-Chen's typing is in a bad spot, right? Grass Dark is an incredibly bad defensive type. So you'd want to use your Terra on it, right? But the Ting-Lus and Amoonguses and Arcanines, Iron Bundles, Fluttermanes. Wo-Chen's just not that great. Like, it has insane stall potential with it's the best Leech Seeder in the format, hands down. However, it's just not that great compared to other Pokemon in the format, which is why I don't know. People believed in it. Now, it could just be... It is just one regional, right? But I think Fort Wayne kind of just shows the problems with Wo-Chen. Sorry for the massive off-topic. This is just something that's been in my head for a few days. Now, they used Taunt on Garganacl. I let a Spoffer die here. Now, you might wonder why. I needed a safe switch into Primeape, and a Spoffer just doesn't do too great into Umbreon or Bisharp. So I just need to sack it. I think that crit mattered, if I'm remembering correct, because it was Eviolite, so it should have been a lot bulkier, and it lost its 4 times weakness. I taunted Wo-Chen there because I was expecting Leech Seeds to go back up. Believe he protects here with... Oh, no, he doesn't protect... Oh, yeah, that's right, because I taunted it. Couldn't protect. And I just close combat the Umbreon for the win. All that's left is Hypno, but Hypno can't do much against my team, especially at 4%, and that was the game. Let's look at one more. Let's look at this one. Oh, well, that was from last week, so I don't feel like we have to look at last week's video, because it just went well. Oh, this match is when I faced off against Nine's full team. This was the week where I actually faced Nine and their team, not Nine playing for Shadow. This was the match I brought Bayonet. And I was a big believer in the explosion tech. It just unfortunately just did not do enough for me. Because Breloom was a massive problem for the team. And I probably should have brought something stronger than Chilling Water on Jigalji. Like, I should have brought Surf. And last is Gastrodon. Who just quad hits with Energy Ball. Like, this was, I believe, was 9 the first game where, week where I had, no, this is the second week that I had, this is the week after I traded away, for a Spafra. I should have Lumina crashed Hatterene there. Because the thing is, the problem with having Oak Code Hatterene game 1 is I wasn't sure if they were Trick Room on Hatterene. And due with the fact that their team was pretty fast, I just didn't think that Hatterene was Trick Room and just underestimated it. Jigalji ate that Psychic though. Muddy Water missing Hatterene was annoying, but Sludge Bomb got the KO. And just Gastrodon can't do enough on its own to win. But yeah, guys. Thank you for listening to the ramblings of a madman, going over my experiences with Prismatic Draft League. Brackets coming up, so I'm excited to do that, but thanks for taking a trip down my thought processes on how this season progressed. Anyways, I will see you all next time. Peace.